County and into the Las Vegas area. This trail will link a number of circuitous trails, including possibly one around Kingman, and I just haven't heard a local update on that project, and I think if the Parks Commission is not aware of that project, they need to be made better aware and just start working on that and getting some more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is C. Russell. I am the current chairperson for the Clean City Commission. Here to talk to you about a couple things tonight. If I may, I'd like to pass these out real quick, and then I'll get back.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, two things. First one, the fair is coming up on the 12th to the 15th of this month. Clean City Commission has a booth there. It's an informational booth, and we answer questions, and we invite members from all the other commissions to come down and set in, to take a little turn at it for a couple of hours. And Parks and Recs have participated every year by giving us paper information to pass out to the people. And it might be nice to have someone there that could actually talk to the people if they have questions about what's going on with the parks and the golf and whatnot. And the person to check with is the Vice Chair, Commissioner Sarah Ferry. She's in the directory, and you can give her a call, and she can put you in as to when would be a good time for you, if you feel like coming down and putting in a few hours at the fair, and then taking off and looking at the fair. Now, we give free passes, so you don't have to pay to get in. With any luck, we can even get you parking permits. So then we'll go on to what I passed the flyers out for. On the 21st of this month, we're having our Day of Caring. And it's 1 week before Andy Devine Days, and every year we try and clean the city up to make it look nice for the tourists that come into town and all. Weather permitting and the wind doesn't blow for that week, and we might be able to keep it clean. But anyway, what we're trying to do is recruit people to come down and help us clean up the city. The Clean City Commission cleans up an area from the where the old Kmart store used to be, clear down to DMV, and on both sides of the street. And the commission only has 7 members like you folks, and 2 of those for sure won't be able to make it. So if anyone could come down and help us out, we supply the reflector jackets, the grabbers, because we're all getting too old to bend over and pick that stuff up, and the bags to do it with. The weather being what it's been, we have plenty of good cold water, and trucks are going around constantly passing that out, and food. So it lasts from 7 o'clock in the morning until noon, or till we're done picking up out there. Usually it's done way before noon. Sanitation takes care of the hauling the bags away. Clean City is also trying to expand on their Adopt-A-Block program, and I'm talking to all the commissions to see if I can get some interest in the commissions, those of you that meet once a month. It makes it a little bit easier, to join us in an Adopt-A-Block program where maybe you come out and clean up an area 3 times, 4 times a year, something like that. We're going to be doing this Day of Caring thing. Normally it's only been once a year. We're going to be doing it twice a year now. We're going to do it just before the Run to the Sun, when we'll be having a lot of tourists coming into town. That'll be in April, and then we're going to do it again in September. So this thing is expanding, hopefully, and we're going to need more and more help. I think last year we had over 300 volunteers on the Day of Caring. So any help we could provide, we would certainly appreciate it. As I said, Sarah Ferry is the one to check with on the fair, and I'm in the directory if you have any questions on the Adopt-A-Block program. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Anybody else? Okay. Okay. At this time, we'll close the call to the public. And I'd also like to, I'm assuming everybody's here for the new business regarding the naming of the dog park. Okay. I'd like to see if we can get a motion to move the new business up ahead of the reports tonight so we can get these folks to the item they're concerned about.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay. So with that, we'll move ahead to new business, item 5A, naming and renaming of city facilities, best practices, policy discussion, and recommendations.
Speak into here, and then this is your PowerPoint. So you just go down arrow.
All right.
There you go.
Got it.
All right.
Yes.
Introduce yourself.
Introduce you.
Is this item B, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay, item B then. Naming of the new dog park at Wall Ranch.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Carol Gillespie, and this is Alana Smart. We are here concerning the new dog park on Willow Road. We would like it called Willow after the dog Willow, who survived there for over 5 years, hence the dog Willow's dog park. There were an awful lot of people that were involved in her captivity, not only from Kingman, but the surrounding areas, as well as states. And we would also like to thank, in her capturing, is Robin Wood, who is here today.
There you go. Perfect.
And Jennifer Agnew, who started up the Mojave County Humane Animal Trapping. This area where the dog park is where Willow survived, and people have many memories of her, both difficult and cruel. Granting this wish will be appreciated by so many people you can't even imagine. The newsflash is it won't cost the city 1 penny out of their budget. In fact, it's going to be cheaper. As Garen says, there are less letters in Willow's Dog Park than Warlock Ranch Dog Park. We'd certainly like to thank you for your time and your attention and consideration, and we look forward to the new dog park opening, hopefully called Willow's Dog Park. Eleanor would like to say a few words, and then if anybody has any questions afterwards, we would be more than happy to answer them.
Good evening. Thank you all for attending and listening to us. I'm 100% behind what Carol says. I'm a big supporter of Willow. The dog park would be great named after the sweet dog Willow. Willow went through many years living in the area where the park is. I know all of Willow's fans would be thrilled to have the park named Willow Dog Park. I think you just saw her. She was just peeked her head in here. You saw how cute she was. She's come an awful long way in over a year since we caught her. So I think Willow Dog Park sounds great. And I know a lot of people know and follow Willow's progress as the days go along. So I ask you to consider this, and I thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't know if you want to read this. It's very readable.
I have a question. Instead of Willow Dog Park, how about Willow's Dog Park with an apostrophe S?
Fine.
Yeah, that's what we were asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was a little nervous, I probably cut it out.
Yeah, we're good around dogs, but humans we're not.
And this really means a lot for so many people. They couldn't make it tonight.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any questions?
Good?
Questions? Any questions? Well, I have a few. We open up for discussion amongst everybody here. Anybody have any thoughts?
I read over the material, and I think it's appropriate, and obviously it has meaning to the community. You're going to be using the dog park, and even outside the dog's name, the park is near Willow Street, so I mean, there's a geographical connection as well. To me, it sounds like it would be an appropriate thing to do.
Okay. Yeah, I have a question for you, Mike. Does the city have a policy or a procedure for naming?
We really don't, and that's why one of the other agenda items is to discuss that.
Okay.
And then we will forward something on to council to come up with a policy on naming and renaming facilities.
Okay.
I think it's important that we do that.
Yeah, it's my thought. I mean, I definitely heartfelt. It's like a great story for Willow, and then the convenience that it's on or near Willow Street. That's just my thought. Is potentially if it sets a precedent, if the city doesn't have something on the books as a policy, you know, if it's how simple is it to just get something named, you know, for whatever reason. But I work for the county too, so I'm kind of used to thinking that way. The county, when you rename a street, you have to live on the street. You have to get a petition signed by over 50% of your neighbors that all are on the same street. So as to really convey that the neighborhood is behind this renaming of the facility. So
There are a lot of followers that live in that area of Willow.
Yeah.
okay.
And they're paying the taxes in that area too.
Sure, right. Well, the users of it too. So that's just some of my concerns on it. But
Just a heads up,
Yeah.
there's going to be an awful lot of people upset if it doesn't go through. Seriously.
oh, I understand. Yeah, I totally understand.
You know, they were all volunteers that stepped forward, and volunteers are your most important asset in the city and the county.
Definitely.
So you think we should get a petition going? Or?
Well, I'm not sure. Again, whatever the city's policy is, but it wouldn't hurt to have more in your bag to kind of convey if it's going to go to council after a recommendation here.
Okay.
Maybe that's a really good thing to have in your back pocket. Is just a petition with how many neighbors you can get within the general area around the dog park. Yeah, because it's one thing if it's just a few people, but if it's you really have the community behind it, then that's what we're here. We're supposed to be here representing you all. So that's my thoughts on it. Yeah.
I know we skipped part A. Are we going to go, Mike? Are we going to go over that so maybe we can
We'll go back to that
further?
We'll go back to that in a minute. They had requested getting this on earlier because they didn't want to be here all.
Yeah.
Is it appropriate maybe to table this until we have the discussion and I don't know if you want to table it to the next meeting or if it's something.
I would like to make a comment. I would like to encourage us to go ahead and do this. Do we need to make a motion, or do we need to go back and see what we're going to do with the renaming and naming city facilities? I don't want to table this until the next meeting, because that's 3 months away. I think this is something that they're passionate about. I worked with a veterinarian that when Will first came in, that I saw how emaciated she was. This is something that's important to the community. I would like to see us make a suggestion tonight to get that brought towards council.
Okay.
And if we can, I would make a motion that we rename or name the dog park Willows, as in plural, dog park.
I second.
You got a motion and a second. Those in favor? Or is it more discussion?
I would like to decide. I think I'm not saying that we should table to the next meeting, but if we could at least review the policy section first and then
I
make a
agree with
motion.
that statement, but I don't want to table this until the
No,
next meeting.
I agree with that.
Okay.
So we have a motion on the floor currently. Do we need to withdraw and okay.
I'll withdraw until I would like to withdraw my motion until we review the naming and renaming of city facilities, policies, and procedures. At that time, I will make a motion to have it named if it applies.
Okay. Is this Ms. Sierra, is this all kosher?
Yeah, it's considered as an edited motion.
Okay.
We have a motion on the floor that's initiated and seconded, not to be passed just yet, but to be reviewed until the next meeting. No? No? No. Then my understanding is it would either need to be passed or taken off the floor.
I cannot modify my motion to table it until after we discuss the policies and procedures. I can do that.
No, that I don't know.
So if we withdraw the first motion, then we can move on to item A, hear that, and then come back to item B, and then have a motion at that point?
Or make a motion to withdraw it.
I think we can do that. I think we're all right to do that.
Okay.
Withdraw it and then bring it back after we review
The
it.
motion that has been made until after we review the policies and procedures of the naming and renaming, and then we'll readdress it at that time.
Okay. Motion, second?
Second. Yep.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we'll go on to item A, and then we'll revisit item B.
You guys,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just hold out for a little bit here. Okay, so item A of new business is naming and renaming of city facilities, best practices, policy, discussion, and recommendation. We have,
For some reason, mine's not up on here.
so this is, Mike, are you giving us this?
basically, it's, there's information in the packet on your packet of the City of Bullhead's ordinance. Our city attorney doesn't feel like we need an ordinance, but that we should have guidelines at least that we go by.
Okay.
And so those guidelines, the City of Bullhead's information is in there, and I thought we could utilize that to talk about and build our guidelines around similar to what theirs are.
Okay.
Theirs are pretty thorough, I thought, in reviewing it, so. And this would obviously go to council as well.
Okay.
So,
Have you all had a chance to review these from, it's the City of Bullhead's Code of Ordinances?
I reviewed it in the packet, and kind of some of the points I picked up on. It's honoring something, the geographical association. It's about one dog, but you could look at it two ways. I mean, the street name is right there too, so I don't really see an issue with it based off of, we don't have the same policy, but it's pretty similar.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner Jacks, did you get a chance to review this?
I took a look at it. I don't feel all that confident in much of a discussion on that. I haven't done very much of that, but what I saw, I thought was okay.
Okay. Okay, does the commission have any other discussion on 5A?
I know that's fine.
Okay. All right, so we'll review we have reviewed 5A. We'll go ahead and move on without an item and go back to 5B.
well, if you want to make a motion, I'll put something together and take it to council, if you recommend that I take those guidelines to council.
So make a motion to make a recommendation to the city council to review the name of the Walk Ranch Dog Park to change to...
No, we're on the other one. What about
naming?
I think we need to make a motion for Mike to basically make a...
create guidelines?
That
I got you.
like Bullhead to him to take to council for
Right.
approval.
Right.
I make that motion.
I second it.
Okay. Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Motion. There we go. Okay. Now back on to B here. We've already had the presentation. Any further discussion on B?
I still would like to make the motion that we change the dog park's name to Willow's Dog Park that is located in Walnut Ranch and adjacent in the area of Willow Street.
Okay. Motion. A second. And second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Then we'll take that to council. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for coming.
Good night.
Good night. Shall we continue with new business then? You want to go to reports?
You go back to the reports.
So we'll go to reports. Okay. Back to reports. Item A is the introduction of council liaison Sue Ann Millo Keener. Hello. And then the following item is introduce our new commissioner, Roger Jacks. Hello. This is. Then item C is introduction of park superintendent and golf course superintendent. Jerry Sipes and Patrick Friend. We did this already, huh? And item D, golf pro report.
Good evening, commission members. Just to touch on, I think you have a complete report in your packet there of what I submitted for this council or commission meeting. We've had a very solid summer at the golf course. Since the last commission meeting, rounds and revenues are up considerably for May, June, and July. We're trending very well for August compared to 2018. We've had some very successful tournaments. I think the last commission meeting we had not had the shuffler tournament at the time. That was a full field event for 2 days. In July we had the Kingman Firefighters event, which was also sold out, 160 players in that event. That was also very successful in raising funds for their scholarship programs. Last week we had the Elks tournament, which also did very well in their fundraising efforts. There were 112 players in the event, so very solid turnout for that one as well. Actually the same number that they had last year. We've had continued play. The County League on Thursday evenings has done very well. They've continued at a pace of about 24 players each evening. We reinstituted the City League, which had been dormant for a couple of years. We started that in May, and it's dwindled off a little bit now. We've gone to every other week in the schedule rather than every week. Started off with about 16 players each week, and it's now down, getting 6 to 8 players each week. So we're trending down a little bit on that one. We're hoping to get that number back up again. We would like to have what used to be an annual match between the City League and the County League in October. We hope to get enough players from the City League side to participate in that event. And we've got good support from the County League on that and the person that operates that league for them, so hopefully we can get that back in place. And then the end of July, we added Journey Church added a league on Monday nights, and we've been getting about 14 to 16 players each week for that. They planned on running that through the end of this month, and then with the daylight hours getting shorter, their group really doesn't start till 5:30, so it makes it difficult for them to complete 9 holes when the daylight's getting shorter. So they're going to, at least at this point, continue it for several weeks. May only play 7 holes or 6 holes, something like that, but they do want to continue that league. Our promotions that we've been running throughout the summer months, we did an airifying special immediately after the shuffler tournament. We had pretty good response from that, reduced the rates as the greens were punched. And that's pretty typical of a lot of golf courses that do that. Had a good response from that. Greens have come back absolutely fantastic. I had a compliment this morning that we've got probably the best greens in Mojave County right now, so we're very pleased to have that. A great job that those guys have been doing on the golf course. We did a Father's Day special. Fathers were able to come out and play the golf course for free on Father's Day, and we had 39 participants take care of that or take advantage of that day. We had a very good turnout for that one. We've continued with our appreciation days, Wednesday being our veterans and active duty, and then Fridays are our education program. Been kind of holding steady on the numbers with those as well. We're going to continue those programs throughout the year. And for the summer, we also did a special after 11 o'clock where players could come out and play 18 holes with a cart for $36. Done very well with that program. We're going to continue that. It was initially going to be through the end of August. We're going to continue it through the end of September. And other than that, I think that's about it for my report. If anybody has any questions for me? No?
Has anybody come up with a new fee schedule yet?
At this point, our rates are staying the same. We don't have any new rates in place at this point.
Well, my one question is, why is there no family rate on there?
I'm sorry?
No family rate?
No family rate. Are you talking about on a daily basis, or are you talking about the annual pass?
The annual pass.
Annual pass. That's something we can discuss. That hasn't been discussed since I've been here in April.
There was a family rate at one time, I believe, many years ago.
Could be. Not sure.
Well, there kind of is if you want to piece it together, but it's hard to get all the pieces in there.
We do have, we've got the annual pass for the individual, and then you add your spouse for an additional rate, and then there's a separate rate for juniors below that. But we don't have one that would combine if you had multiple family members in there.
That's my thought is there should be.
Okay. We can talk about that, certainly. Any other questions? No? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item is the golf course report.
Good evening, Commission members. I'm here to give the course report. I'm going to start with our greens. We performed greens aerification in May. We had great success with that. We brought our crew members in on a Sunday afternoon and started right after the shuffler tournament. Like they were still trying to putt out and we're trying to punch holes. Not literally, but huge shout out to the maintenance crew for getting that done coming in. We did have one hydraulic spill. I like to roll the greens after we're done blowing all the sand and everything in. And one of our old rollers blew a hydraulic line on the back of the number 8 green. Did some pretty significant damage. Dumped about 7 gallons of hydraulic fluid. So we've since patched all that in, and it is growing back in nicely. We did 2 granular fertilization applications of 0050, an application of granular gypsum during the aerification process, liquid application including manganese sulfate, ferrous sulfate, ammonium sulfate, and foliar phosphite, and all these help to promote a desirable root zone. And as we all know with plants, if you don't have roots, you don't have canopy. We also did 2 applications of fungicide during the high humidity and the thunderstorms to help combat any fungus that may be present. And also one thing that wasn't listed that I'd like to mention is that we were able to purchase a brand new roller through Mike's efforts mainly. It also has a spiker on it that has an attachment that sits between the 2 rollers, so we can actually roll and spike the greens at the same time. This is something that's huge for us. Greg was mentioning, the golfers are commenting how great the greens are. Part of that is due to the fact of that piece of equipment. Fairways, application of fungicide was applied. I know from speaking with Mike, this is something that hasn't been done in the past. It wasn't budgeted for. And I know due to, turf detriment in the past, it was something that we put in this, or he put in this year's budget. That, I think, really has helped. It's been successful. That, for us, is huge. We also applied 2 applications of 0050 sulfate of potash. On our tees, we had 2 applications of fungicide. an application of herbicide was combined with one of those applications. Try to keep down, we've got quite a bit of dandelion going. And of course this time of year there's no yellow flowers, but the weed's still present. So we're trying to slowly do away with those before we get to spring, and all of a sudden there's yellow flowers everywhere. So, we also did an application of fertilizer on those. For irrigation, we had a total of 5 mainline breaks, 3 of them occurring on Sunday afternoons. Yeah, of course, never happens any other way, but I would like to recognize our irrigation technician, Jacob. Obviously he's not here, but he really stepped to the plate all 3 times on his own time, came in, you know, when he wasn't scheduled to work, and helped get that fixed so we could irrigate properly. In the process, we replaced roughly 110 foot of old blue piping. I'm kind of in the habit of when we get a mainline break, even if it's from me to the computer, we're trying to replace a 20 or 40 or 60 foot section if we can, so that we can upgrade the system, because that's the biggest failure of it. We also installed 2 brand new electric valves and a 4-inch mainline isolation valve. And this will help us in the future if we have another break to be able to isolate quicker. We have less water loss that way. And even if we're just doing general maintenance on sprinklers and we have to shut the system down, we're not having to drain 3 or 4 holes. We're trying to get to where we only have to drain 1 hole. We had 1 lateral break on hole 9, and actually it happened in a really good area. We were able to extend that piping about 20 feet and add an additional irrigation head to an area that was looking pretty bad and really suffering. The golf course suffered a total of roughly 3.5 nights without proper irrigation. 2 nights were due to our computer-aided irrigation control system computer failing. Everybody loves technology until it doesn't work, including me, especially in that situation. But we were able to get it replaced and shipped out overnight. I was able to go in the following evening and get it all reprogrammed and back up and irrigating. And then we suffered a full night of non-irrigation and a second night of limited irrigation due to an issue that the water department had. And I would just like to point out that when that happens, we seem to be the first ones that they call to not irrigate. And I think that should be spread out amongst everybody else. So I don't know that this commission can do anything about that, but I just feel it should be that way. Anyway, it came at a time that we were, 80 degrees at night and 105 during the day, so it was really, really inconvenient. It took us a couple weeks to get a lot of the stress spots back. Some of the stress spots from that still aren't recovered fully. So I don't know. I know Mike's had discussions with the city manager, and it's kind of gone from there, but I felt it was important because some of those spots you can see from the freeway. And of course, that's our biggest selling point, so. All right, during that process too, we were making efforts to run extra irrigation during the day, hose reel our greens to keep them cooled off. In practices we would normally do, but we were adding additional times to that just because we weren't able to irrigate at night. Once the water company said, yeah, go ahead, then we put as much on as we could get. As far as maintenance, one of the thunderstorms that came through actually ripped one of the panels off of our billboard along I-40. Luckily for us, it wasn't damaged. It just pulled the screws through. I didn't realize it until then, but almost that whole thing is wood. And so luckily we were able to just put some big flat washers over the holes, and the maintenance crew was able to get it put back up. We didn't have to outsource any of that. So that's something that's going to need attention. As far as gopher activity, which is on a golf course, gophers is always a big complaint. Our gopher gasser unit did suffer some damage early in the summer. It was a mechanical issue. It took it out of commission, so we did get a little behind for a while. That has since been fixed, back up and running, and I have employees, team members concentrating almost daily, with the exception of a couple of the weekends, to get us caught back up on those. And also herbicide applications. This isn't in your packet, but I felt it was important. We all know that we have an aggressive weed growing on our greens. Every time we do a fungicide application, a fertilizer application, I'm adding really low rates of herbicide because it is bent grass and it is the middle of summer. So I don't want to kill our greens, but I do want to kill this weed. So a combination of putting that down has helped really knock it down. We're also spot spraying it too. It's gotten to the point where we need to get a little more aggressive. So that happened over the last 2 weeks, which I realize doesn't have a whole lot to do with this, but in the event that it comes up, we do have some spots on the greens that don't look presentable, and those spots are the weeds dying. It's not actually turf. So, I think that's it. Does anybody have any questions on that part of it?
Just a comment on that. I think for any city, curb appeal is really important as you go through the city. And I just wanted to say I think the golf course represents Kingman really well. When you go down 40 and you see the fairways and the greens, it gives a great image to the city, and thank you for that.
Absolutely.
You had said there had been some more discussion with Mike on the water rationing. Do you have more information on that?
At this point, I don't have any information in.
No, the city had some major mainland leaks, and so they had to, and we had to shut down irrigation in the parks as well.
Okay.
So, it's
Is
just
that because they have to have so much water in the tanks for fire restrictions?
right.
Yeah.
I get you. Okay.
So it's a challenge. The thing with it is, I think what Patrick's concern is obviously in mine as well. Let's shut off everything else, but maybe not the greens. So the greens, when you're cutting greens at 1/8 of an inch, that's the first thing to suffer. They don't have very deep roots either, so that's, let's shut everything off and maybe let us be able to water the greens at least. So that's kind of what we've determined might be the best thing, so.
I went out to the golf course today, and I haven't been there in a while. I've been out of town and indisposed, but I just wanted to say it's probably looking the best I've seen it since I moved here. And I commend you for it. The greens are beautiful, and the fairways there's some hot spots, but 105, 106 degrees, you got to expect that. And but I just want to commend you and your crew for bringing the golf course back, and hope you can continue.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. All right. You want me to go and do short-term, long-term? That's listed under me. Okay.
Yeah, that's nice.
All right. At the request of Vice Chairperson Engelson, he requested some sort of a short-term turf improvement plan and a long-term turf improvement plan. I'm going to try really hard not to bore you with everything I put in here. You guys are more than welcome to read through all of it. I think that the biggest challenge that we're facing at the golf course is we've taken on the pro shop, and we want to get the golf course as close to sustainable as we can. And so trying to maintain turf as the prices of fertilizer and herbicide and labor and insurance and everything that's associated with employees goes up, and not being necessarily able to increase budgets is where we're trying to find a balance. I think that's going to be our biggest thing. Second thing, I think really when it comes to a lot of this is educating, the citizens. Before I started here, obviously I have a background in golf course, one of them being fairly close to Kingman. So I used to hear all the ruckus, and that was always the biggest thing, is people wanted to do away with the golf course. Well, obviously it's my passion. That's what I do. I don't want it to go away, so I want to get it as close to sustainable as possible. Therefore, I feel like you said, that the turf speaks for itself. My work speaks for itself, and my crew's work speaks for itself. And in this short term and long term, there's things that we can do. There's things that we are doing. There's things that we could talk about all night, but really it boils down to what do we have the money to do. And so things like buying rollers that have spikers. We have a new fairway spiking unit. These are all cheap items. They're not real big, expensive pieces of equipment, And spiking our fairways up every couple of weeks. We're spiking our greens, twice a week now. Opening that up, getting that CO2 to release and getting some good oxygen. Keeping up with the fertilization programs. Those are all things that we need to keep doing and being hands-on to me. That's huge. I go look at the golf course probably 18 times a day, at least. I mean, not every single day because you get stuck doing things, but I think that's the biggest thing that is covered in all of this. I mean, there's things that we can highlight on the greens that I think that have probably been discussed in this commission for probably years and years and years that people are doing, and everybody has a different way of doing it. And I've learned a lot from Mike, even since I've come along, and so it's up to the commission. I can go over and run all the way through this, or if you guys just want to review it and highlight, or if you have any questions about it, if you reviewed it, I'd be more than happy to answer those.
Yeah, my only question, which it answered itself in the short term, was whether you did soil sampling to kind of inform your nutrients and all that, but that's answered in the long-term plan.
Absolutely, yeah, we are doing that now, and that's something that we plan on continuing. That's huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
Well, I'd just like to say my request wasn't a critique of anybody. I would just, for my own information, I would like to know, what your plans are, and I know you have plans, for this year, next year, and 5 years down the road. There's all kinds of different things you could do to the golf course to make it better or improve it or whatever you want to call it. And I'm sure you're probably more aware of that than I am.
Right.
And that's why I asked for the report. And it wasn't I wasn't trying to criticize anybody.
No, I absolutely get that, and I appreciate that.
But I would like to review it, and then come and talk to you someday when we got time.
Absolutely.
Okay.
To that point, is the golf course going to be included in the master plan process, or is it kind of been identified?
Yes, that will be included in there.
Okay. So some of that will be set. Is it a 10-year master plan that we're looking at?
5-year, I believe.
5-year. Okay. One comment I like to make is you kind of touched on it, and then on Facebook recently, there's been a lot of heated debate about fees. Fees for the paying enough people so that the pool can stay open as a quality of life issue, and fees about the disc golfers and all this kind of stuff. And you mentioned sustainability in the context of cost recovery. What kind of action as the commission could we take to maybe send a message up to the policymakers at the council, or even Manager Foggin? Is it attending the budget meetings and kind of speaking on behalf of parks, or what actions can we take to maybe push for that an increase in spending on parks?
Well, we put in the budget, and the city manager will review it,
Mm-hmm.
and he will cut some things out if we ask for too much, obviously, and then it goes to council, and they either approve it or don't approve it. So, Patrick will be instrumental in things that he thinks he needs, but he's looking at like the same thing, what he's saying. We would like to see our golf course be as close to self-supporting as it can be.
Sure.
And the same, we do that with our pools. We do that with all of our programs. We try to make them as close to self-supporting as they can be. So,
I know you're in a tough spot of trying to recover costs, but then also try to keep costs low enough for the community to absorb and
be able to use our facilities.
Yeah, because if you raise the cost too much to be sustainable, then everything goes away.
Exactly.
There's no participation. So I'm kind of just curious what we might be able to do as a collective to try to send the message, just to the council, or even city manager, just to maybe cut some more general funds loose and relieve this recovery, whatever the percentage is there. So maybe that's just a discussion we can have with Manager Boggins or the council. Okay.
All right.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next item, Recreation Superintendent Report.
Good evening, Commissioners. Just to go over a couple things from the Recreation Division portion. Our child supervision program that we had in the summer, which was our Summer Fun Days camp, ran for 7 weeks from 7:30 to 5:30 daily for children 6 to 12. It ran from June 3rd through July 19th. Our attendance this year was in the mid-30s on an average, which was a little bit higher than last year. Still not quite where we were a few years back, but as Jeremy mentioned, the cost recovery portion kind of what shot our program in the foot. It also included weekly trips to the pool, off-site excursions. We did some day hikes. We did visits weekly to the splash pad. And we also participated at the golf course this year. We took a group of kids over to the driving range and the chipping and the putting to try to introduce them, get them used to more about what the golf course has, and hope that they'd utilize it or bring out their parents in hopes to gain a few more visitors there. The camp was $75 a week, so I mean, for what you get, 7:30 to 5:30 Monday through Friday for $75, and everything that's included was a pretty good deal. As fitness and dance goes, our dance classes still continue to grow. Our dance recital that we had in the spring that concluded the spring season on May 18th, we ended up having to do 2 performances because of the number of participants and the number of performances that we had to produce. The Parks Division graciously helped us with building props for our musical theater class and some of the other items that we used for the dance recital as well. This summer we had 11 dance camps, and that was through various genres and age groups, etc. And those ran from the first week of June through the 3rd week of July. Also July 19th is when the last class was held. That was the week just before the KUSD students returned back to school. For as far as the fall goes, we currently have 206 students enrolled in our dance programs, and that's between 23 classes. We revitalized our water aerobics and aquakinetics for the summer. We combined the 2 classes and gave participants the ability to go to either of the 4 days by utilizing a punch pass. The punch pass was the first time we introduced it, I think, was last summer, and it kind of helps because with our weather, as you know, you get the monsoons, the pools close. When they sign up for a 4-week session, if the pool happens to be closed on Mondays and Wednesdays and you sign up for Mondays and Wednesdays, you're the one getting shorted on your program because we can't really make it up on another Monday or Wednesday. So by using the punch pass, it allowed participants, if they couldn't make it on a Monday, they can come to another class on Tuesday to utilize it that way. We had our Zumba instructor that, gosh, I want to say she was with us for about 5 or 6 years, and she went off to the U.S. Navy, so she'll be serving our country. We lost Jenna. She was also one of our assistant pool managers. But hopefully here in the next couple weeks or so, we are in the process of hiring a new instructor that will be taking that over if everything comes through with that. Aquatics, both our pools are now closed. They opened on May 27th and they closed to the public on August 10th. They were open during the day, Monday through Friday from 1 to 5, Saturdays and Sundays from 1 to 4, and night swims were available from 7 to 9. At Centennial was Monday and Wednesday, and at the Grandview downtown pool was Tuesdays and Thursdays. They continued swimming lessons all throughout the summer from 9 to noon in the morning at Centennial, and the Grandview pool from 5:15 to 7:05 in the evening. Our swim lessons were pretty much full all season long. Next year we're looking at possibly expanding into doing morning lessons at Grandview as well. So opening up morning lessons down there might give some more folks some more opportunity. On the sports area, we offered our summer camps. The popular ones are the Little Tykes program and the floor hockey. For the Little Tykes, we had 67 participants enrolled, and that was a combined program for t-ball, soccer, and basketball. The week of June 29th through the 30th, we hosted the Fence Buster softball tournament at Centennial, as well as the John Bathauer Memorial Scholarship fundraising tournament, and there was quite a few other outside agencies that rented Centennial Park so that they could host their own softball tournaments as well. We're currently working on our fall sports season. We have in our adult volleyball, there's 18 teams, and it's closed. That is full. We normally do 3 divisions, but we only are limited to 2 nights at the facility that can house us, which is White Cliffs Middle School. So we're putting 2 9-team divisions together. And kickball, it will be held at Centennial Park on Sundays, and there's 8 teams in that, so it'll be a 1-team league. I mean, a 1-league team, 1-league division of 8. I'll get the verbiage here sooner or later. Our youth volleyball program currently has 25 youth enrolled. The deadline to register was the end of this week, but we've extended it a couple weeks in hopes to generate a few more registrations. All of our sports, the adult volleyball, adult kickball, and youth volleyball will start in September. We've also implemented, this last Sunday, we started a new pickleball program. Well, revitalized it. Again, we all tried pickleball for quite a few years, and the registrations kind of dwindled, and it was something, because it wasn't self-supporting or self-sustaining, again, we had to let it go. But now this past Sunday, we offered it for the first time. We had 30 participants show up. So the numbers seem to be doing good. As long as we can maintain those numbers and be able to house everybody, hopefully the program will stay above ground. As far as our trips and tours, we did a trip to the Tuacahn Amphitheater. We went river rafting and did a train through Heber Valley with a visit of the Zion National Park and the Dinosaur Discovery Museum, all in Utah. It was a 3-day, 2-night trip in June, and sold-out bus. And pretty much, there was little snags here and there, but it was still overall a great trip. We had a lot of positive feedback on that. We had 43 registered out of the 50 that we would have taken, so we were 7 shy of being completely full. And we currently don't have any trips scheduled in our brochure for the fall. We're going to be looking at our options and see what we can do in the spring. For our special events, our annual summer carnival was held at Centennial Park on June 14th. It had carnival-style games, and along with our outdoor movie, we showed Wreck-It Ralph. Ralph Breaks the Internet, which is the Wreck-It Ralph second part movie. We had about 500 in attendance at the carnival and about 150 at the movie. It's another one of those programs that I think the children, I say, they're developing and finding other things to do. The popular age group that was there was those like under 6. And ideally, it was designed for like the 5 through 12 or 13 age group. We're just not grabbing that older age group anymore. I think they're all into technology and cell phones and video games and such. Mud Mania, we held on July 11th. We had 393 participants this year, which was close to our average. And our float-in movie, we had 2 float-in movies, one on July 12th. We showed Aquaman. And August 9th, we did How to Train Your Dragon 2. Both had about 100 participants. And we usually put the movies out on our Facebook post so the public gets to pick and choose. We give them a couple options, and we pick the highest rated one based on votes from the public. On the miscellaneous side of things, our aquatics and recreation staff, we did our annual orientation and training for them in May for each of their significant programs, whether they're lifeguard, cashiers, day camp staff, etc., management. We all put them through an extensive training. It's kind of an all-day thing that they go through just prior to their start of their season, so it takes a lot of prep and time for that. We have acquired, as I mentioned earlier, recreation instructor in Zumba is what we're waiting for, some little final notes there. But we also have hired a photography instructor. She's going to be teaching beginning photography. And the Zumba instructor will also be helping with some of our dance classes if the time works out correctly. I think other than that, Mike and I attended the APRA conference last week, which is the Arizona Parks and Recreation Association conference. Jeremy was there as well. A lot of educational courses that were offered that we're able to network with other people, learn ideas, and see what we can bring back and implement here in Kingman. Other than that, I think that's it. Any questions?
When's the fall book?
It comes out online this Saturday. It'll be in the Daily Miner this Sunday, and we'll have it in our office on Tuesday. Hopefully thinking it'll be here Friday, but we're going with Tuesday. So, anything else? Alrighty. Thank you.
Okay. Item G, Park Superintendent Report.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
All right, for this one, this evening, I put together a slideshow and highlighting some of our highlights. High points. Start off with, we repaired the flagstone at Locomotive Park. It was all deteriorating. Water gets in there, and then it freezes over winter and all cracks up. We used cement, and we actually used dye, or the chalk line dye, the red chalk, and we were able to match it up almost perfectly. Then Camp Beale, the monument there, was somebody vandalized it and tried to rip it off. We weren't able to get it off, just kind of embedded in the concrete, so we put decorative brick around there where they can't get behind it anymore. We're here at the Outs Lodge. We had some trees that were taken out. We rented a scrump grinder, got those down, then redid the concrete over the top of them. And this one, I'm proud of this one. On your right there, you'll see our little Workmans. It's kind of our most used tool. They're like little mini dump trucks. We use them for a lot of activities as far as doing trash removal, hauling concrete instead of getting a big dump truck on our turf and causing ruts. And we had one that has a spreader on it. And in order to switch from the spreader to the dump bed and the other apparatuses they make, it's quite time consuming. So we were able to use old spare parts and make a trailer to hold the spreader and then use the Workman and just keep it as a dump truck. And it still hooks up to the back of it just like it would. Whenever we need to fertilize, we can just hook up the back to it. It hooks up just like it used to. Same button, everything operates it, and it's now a trailer. And then it's just parked and don't have to keep switching it back and forth. Then down at Locomotive Park again, in the center area where the culvert drain is, we removed the hose bibs down there and all the brush and the old tin webbing that was over there. And we're going to be putting, we got it all smoothed out, we're going to be putting grass in there leading up to the drains. And at Centennial Park, we had 3 broken main lines. While we were in there, we put new isolation valves in so we can isolate smaller areas instead of having all that drain out at once to try to get to the repair. At the Benelli House, there was a donated bench down there that was starting to get really weathered. We took it back to our shop, disassembled it, we were able to restain it and reassemble it back at the Benelli House. It was a donation bench. At Centennial Park, had a couple of our shade structures over the years where they get damage occurred to them from either deliveries or other things that ran into them. We sleeved them and re-welded over on the top to get them more secure. And this is one of our backflows we have at the county building. It constantly gets hit. It's been 3 times we've gone down there and fixed the box. We installed yellow poles to kind of help protect it. It's from trucks pulling in off any divine, they kind of clip it. But we're able to salvage the box and put it back in. This is the big one. This is the new soccer field lights, Phase 2 at Centennial Park. This was with the City of Kingman, Walker Service Electric, KYSL, and Unisource all worked together to get these set up. And here's the various photos of when they first came in. It filled up our whole shop with pallets and boxes. All of that had to be assembled. Then I got a photo here of Unisource lifting them. These were actually just done today. They're all completely completed and come on now. Then we have our new playground at Firefighters Memorial Park. I got from here, from the groundbreaking to the finished product. At Metcalf Park, our expression swing that was put in up there was vandalized and broken in half. So we were able to get it covered under warranty and have the parts sent to us, and then we were able to make signs to put up there too. And I got the manufacturer, and we got the recommended weight limit that you're not supposed to exceed. I had custom signs put up there for it. And the Catherine Heinrich Center is funded in part by the City of Kingman. Put our name and our logo on the top of the sign with it, along with the other supporters. And here's the City Expo that the city put on. We did all the sound for that, and also for the 32nd annual fun run. The splash pad and the open May 1st is scheduled, and Grandview and Centennial Pool is also opened on time. And we got a slide at Wallach Ranch Park that has suffered a crack. A new replacement's on its way. So it's out of service right now. Our new dog park, The one that was in discussion earlier today, to be named Willow, was already broken into and vandalized. They broke the latch, they went in there and broke the weaving poles that were in there, and they also pulled out the lugs that hold the weaving poles and threw them out. We were able to get those all repaired. Thank you. You guys have any questions for me?
Anybody? I have a couple of comments. Just one regarding the trees at the Elks here. Is there, and this is just my opinion, but is it possible, or would it have been? Is there an opportunity there to maybe have converted those into planters, or kept them as planters to maybe do street trees or something like that?
There's not an irrigation system there.
Oh, okay.
But it would be feasible to do that.
Okay. And then other comment I have is I emailed Mike about this earlier, but at Centennial Park, the new playground, the shade structure above the playground,
yes,
it's great. It's wonderful. I started seeing all the parents under, they're sitting basically in the wood chips and on the curb, to be underneath the shade of the canopy, while there's a perfectly good bench sitting right next to it, but there's no shade over it. So I was wondering if there's an opportunity there to maybe throw some shade trees up and maybe start looking at some of those opportunities where people are gathering and there's amenities for hanging out, but then there's no shade. A natural shade of a tree is pretty inexpensive to throw in there. And there's
we'll be looking into shade structures here shortly because we're looking at possibly doing one in a couple other places as well.
Yeah, just a general comment that I noted when I was out there. But yeah, otherwise, lots of really good work. We were over at Firefighters Park playing on that playground, I think day 2, and
I think it's
pretty cool.
I think it's awesome. They didn't have stuff like that when I was younger.
Yeah. I don't know what the weight limit is on that one swing with the net in it, but I was in there myself, so yeah. I feel like a kid.
Yeah, I have yet to reach the top of the rope one.
So good job, though. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay.
Thank you. And Director of Parks Recreation Department report.
I'll be brief. Basically, Jerry mentioned the lights. We're excited about that. The lights all got worked today. They worked on them to get them all. When we put them up a month or so ago, they had 3 or 4 lights that weren't coming on, so we had to get together with Unisource and Walker Electric, and it took them time to get it worked out so that Walker Electric could go up in the Unisource bucket truck. So that's kind of what part of the delay was. But we're excited about that, and we're going to have a ribbon cutting there next Wednesday at 6 o'clock, Wednesday evening. So we're excited about that, to get that going. It's a great project. It's going to be really nice. I want to touch on White Cliffs Trail. We're still waiting on a grant from State Parks, and at the APRA conference, I got the opportunity to talk to Nikki Rogers, who's in charge of that project, and basically they're waiting on a couple of the archaeologists. It took a while to get an archaeologist to come and do it because of when the government shut down, the federal government shut down, federal government archaeologist was who was coming to look at it. So that was delayed a little bit, but the archaeologists also found a couple areas out in the site that had to be addressed, and I talked to him, as a matter of fact, this week, and he's going to be writing his report, and then I have to get that to State Parks, and it has to be approved by ADOT. So it just takes time, but it's looking very positive for us, and it's also looking very positive that we're going to get more grant funding than we thought we were going to get. They say it's going to be maybe a fully funded project, which is awesome, because we were only going to get $14,000, so it's going to be a substantial improvement from that, so we're excited about that. And I just wanted to touch on it because it's not official yet, but it's looking very positive. The Sunbelt Park Master Plan, we ended up going with C5, which is basically, it's a lot similar, but with input from the soccer group, we ended up taking out one basketball court and one sand volleyball court and some trees, and we relocated the trail so it goes around the whole outside of the park, which is better, really. It doesn't have a path going down through the middle of it, so they can utilize that whole area out there, whatever size fields they want to use. So that's kind of how we got to that, and it's going to be a really good project, and we're anxious to get started on that. The other one I wanted to touch on is Firefighters Park Playground. Jerry mentioned that. We had a ribbon cutting there June 18th, and really good turnout, a lot of people there, and it's been getting that park's been getting a lot of use, so we're excited about that. And the dog park at Wallach Ranch, that we're going to be having a ribbon cutting there early next month as well, and I'll get you guys an invite to that. I'll send you an invite to the ribbon cutting next Wednesday as well. And we just found out about, I've just been emailing back and forth with the soccer group about the ribbon cutting, so we just finalized that stuff today after the power got straightened out. So, and that's about all I have to report on. The next meeting is November 20th, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any questions.
Is this, the White Cliffs Trail, is that part of the trail system that this lady spoke about?
No, it's not part of that trail.
Okay. How do we get information on that?
We've given reports on it. We had somebody come to this commission and give a report, and we'll give you an update on that report as well. But it's ongoing, and I just attended a meeting 2 weeks ago, I guess it was, with the county, and so we're working on that project as well. So yeah,
I haven't been a part of that,
yeah.
So I was just curious what the status.
It's an awesome project. It's going to go basically from on the southeast end of the state all the way across the state to Las Vegas. It's going to go all across the whole state. So
very good.
Yeah, it's an exciting
I look
project.
forward for more information.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Questions?
With the Sunbelt Park, as far as funding for that, like time frame on that, what's the discussion there?
We have $380,000 right now that we have to spend by the end of this fiscal year, end of this calendar year, I'm sorry, by December 31st. So, and that's not really a lot to do a lot, so, but we're going to get that figured out exactly what we're going to do. You know, we had hoped to try to get grass, but there's no water, there's not even a water main out in front of that park yet, so that's all got to be extended down there, so we're going to have to get the drainage plan, what we think is important, get the drainage, all the blueprints for the irrigation, so we can get that started as soon as possible. And we're going to try to get in-kind work done by contractors in the area too, which is a challenge, obviously. Our contractors in our area are a lot busy doing developments and things like that right now, but we're going to try to work with some of them and see what we can get. Try to get that $380,000 to go as far as it can go. So, and obviously we'll be putting in the budget next year for more funding for that park.
So the damages from the water department, will they give you a free meter as a compensation for that? How's that project going to be delivered? Is it something that you're going to do a design build, or is it just going to be we have this concept, we're going to deliver it ourselves?
We're in the process of working through all that right now. We talked to a JOC contractor where they would do that, and so we're in the process of working through all that right now.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. With that, we'll move on to item 4, old business. First one there is the disc golf update.
I'm going to let Patrick talk on this because he's been working very closely with the disc golf people and the golf course people. We had a day where we tried it and worked out very well, so I'm going to let Patrick take this on and tell you about it.
Well, hello again. Hello. Disc golf, like Mike said, is something that I kind of was trying to bring to the table. Like I said before, we're looking to be sustainable. We're looking for added sources of revenue. I've had experience at prior golf courses with disc golf and ball golf. So it's kind of a concept that Mike and I worked together on when we first took the pro shop over. And we finally arrived here in August and got a trial run done a lot later than I'd like to have, but, you know, it is what it is. I would, again, I kind of did a whole report on it. One of the people that belongs to the local disc golf club actually is one of my personnel. He's on my maintenance staff. So we kind of went out and put our brains together and designed a disc golf course that pretty much utilizes areas that most ball golf doesn't see. Obviously, we don't want to interact with the two. One of the biggest things we discussed in the beginning was time limitations. We don't want them out there taking our prime tee times because obviously rate structures could possibly be different. But we did have a trial run. I worked with Jason Noonan, who is the president of the local disc golf club. He's one intense guy. If you don't know him, you should meet him. He'll talk your ear off for at least an hour and a half about nothing. No, seriously, he's a good guy. And he actually brought 6 himself and 5 other players out. We set these disc golf baskets out where we designed this. We did it while we had some golf course play because we wanted to see how it would flow. Is it going to interact? Is it going to be an issue? And we just turned them loose and let them do their thing. And I thought it was working rather well, personally. Again, I think we should, if we move forward to council with different rates, and this is something that we're going to go as putting in as a permanent thing, which the Disc Golf Club is in support of, paying green fees and renting golf carts and helping support the golf course. I feel it's something that we need to move forward with. I think we're going to tap into some revenue stream that we're not seeing now, honestly. The biggest thing I think that highlighted from this event was redesigning of some of the holes. Originally we had them going from hole 7 to hole 15. Well, in talking with Greg and putting our heads together, that didn't really mesh well because if you tee off ball golf at noon, you're going to be hitting 15 about the time these guys are, so we didn't want to get too much interaction going. So there was a little course redesign. It was all presented to them as well. One of the biggest things I think that I want to comment, having hosted disc golf in the past and having hosted ball golf tournaments in the past, I hosted a 66-hole Route 66 Classic, and it was my biggest revenue day of the whole year. Because not only did I make green fees and cart fees, these people drink, they eat. I wasn't normally open for dinner in our restaurant. They made me stay open and serve them food. So I really think it's something that we need to seriously consider. There's a whole group of people out there that's all they do. And I would also like to say in return, they've put a group of people together, and now they are learning ball golf, and they come out every Wednesday and they play 9 holes. So they're, in my opinion, trying to show us they're really interested in doing this. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. Like I said, we followed them around the golf course. We took down yardages for them. It was a cool event.
What's your layout look like?
Unfortunately, I did not bring a map. I didn't realize I was going to be the one talking about this. So we do have maps, and I'd be more than happy to email you one so that you have an idea.
Okay.
And I can email that to all of you if you'd like. No problem.
Yes, please.
Yeah, absolutely. We did lay it out too, real quick, so that keeping our clubhouse in mind, we did do 9 and 9. That way, they're stopping by the clubhouse on the way too and picking up more refreshments and things of that nature. So.
Are the rates for disc golf comparable to the rates for ball golf?
No rates as of yet have been set. There's been a little.
No, they won't be the same as ball golf because for several reasons. Basically, we've looked at what a lot of other golf courses do, and disc golf, they don't take divots out of the turf. They don't put ball marks on the greens. They don't even get near the greens, basically. And they play 18 holes of disc golf much faster than they do even 9 holes of ball golf. So it's just a much faster pace. And we've looked at the rates of what 3 or 4 other golf courses do. And so we're going to base them somewhat off of that. And so they won't be the same as golf. The cart rental fees will be similar to what our cart rental fees are, though.
Any way that you can get that information along with the email of the golf course? Give us an idea of what the low end and the high end may be, so we have an idea of what the price would be?
Yeah, we'll include that. We're getting really close. It's a staff decision about what the rates for that are going to be, and the city manager and our staff, we've been talking about that. So we're really close on that. We're going to do disc golf, and we're hopeful that we just would like to get a vote of support from this commission. And in the future too, we're going to look at doing foot golf, where they take soccer balls and kick the soccer ball and play golf with the soccer ball. That's something else that's really big and growing in this country. So that's another thing that we're going to do. And we're going to do these things, and we're doing them where they're time frames, where they're slower times for the golf course. And a lot of times you'll go by that golf course and you'll see nobody on the golf course in the afternoon. So we're trying to fill those times and get more revenue for the golf course.
My concern as a ball golfer is it starts that way, and then nobody decides, well, you know, my game should be just as important as the next guy's game. And eventually down the line, it starts to encroach on each other.
We haven't heard of that happening at other golf courses. We've talked to, Greg talked to 3 or 4 other golf courses, and I've talked to several other golf courses. So we're not seeing that, but,
okay.
You know, I mean.
This is all new to me.
Yeah.
Kind of feeling my way like you seem to do. Well, you know more about them.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, so that you guys know, I'm pretty much a traditional golfer as well, and it was new to me when I first took it on, and I'll be honest with you, I was pretty resilient to it. I wasn't sure that I wanted them out there, but like Mike said, like our golf course greens, for example, those are considered out of bounds. They're not even allowed to go on them. You know, we're looking at a whole line of being able to carry these discs and rent them out, and there's a whole revenue stream there that I think that we need to be tapping into that we're not. They host a 200-person event in Las Vegas, and the people that don't make the cut in Las Vegas play a tournament in Phoenix 2 days after that. I mean, that could be huge for us. Just that one event could be huge. And again, they're talking about hosting league nights and 3-4 times a week. And they're doing all that at Fireman's now. So my idea is, why are we not collecting the revenue for that when they're willing to do it?
Comment.
Sure.
And just a short. Thank you. Just a short tenure that I've had on the board. This is the one thing I've had inputs from golfers that are really concerned about disc golf. And so what I was wondering was, is there an effort, or can there be an effort to try to bring those golfers, because we're pretty much, I'm sure you know who the avid golfers are in town that would be vocal, and try to get buy-in from them, because as you said, as I said here and you explained this, it makes a lot of sense on what you're trying to do. I think they just see the downside, and I think the fact that they're not around the greens, you're using parts of the golf course that you don't really see as a golfer, and it helps to bring more revenue in that can be used for the golfing community. I mean, there's some really good parts to that, but I think an education program really needs to be put out there and get those people on board.
If I might, we did, Greg did a really good job of answering on our Facebook page, answering questions and inviting any of those people that had any concerns to come and meet with him, and we'd be happy to share information with any of them. So I think we've done a good job of getting it out on Facebook. And what we should have done, hindsight's a beautiful thing, we should have done is got it out on Facebook before we did that. That's what we figured out. But it actually worked out good, because I think a lot of the people, like what you're saying, have heard now about it and realize it's a good thing. It's going to, the closer we can get our golf course to paying for itself, the more likely it's going to remain a golf course forever. That's kind of how we look at it. We want to continue to get it to be as close to paying for itself as possible. So this is just another avenue of helping that.
Yeah, I would echo Commissioner Jacks here and just say the public outreach and education would be a huge thing. And you know, even I was thinking, I think we mentioned earlier, is maybe an event where you have the ball golfers playing disc, you know, and just kind of just cross it up so they can each learn about each other's respective sport, and maybe there's a bit more tolerance across the way from each other. I mentioned last meeting too, we have a disc golf facility up at Wallapai, and the same group of people come up there, and they, every single one of them has bought annual passes, and they have events every month, and we see about 50 persons associated with these events, and they're all day events. They're there from sunrise to sunset, and they're very respectful of the property. And their natural habitat is kind of a precious thing. It's what makes the park unique, and they're very respectful of that too, working with us for litter removal and anything like that. So I have no doubt they'll have the same, treatment of the golf course. So I totally support this direction. And I've also heard from soccer players too, who are anxious to hear about this other
soccer. Yeah, that's something else we're just starting to kind of dip into a little bit. So.
With the fee discussions, is you guys talking about an annual pass for the disc golfers too?
No, we haven't talked about that. I don't think we'll probably do that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would just like to add to that too, to kind of reiterate what you're saying. When we first finally settled on a date that we were going to try this expo, Jason, the president of the Disc Golf Association, guaranteed me 80 players for that event, and that's not what we wanted to do. But he was willing to bring 80 people just to try it, and they were all going to be paying customers. And again, hindsight's 20/20. Maybe I should have taken their money, but we didn't know how it was going to flow. So I think it was a good event. Having them out, they are super excited. Super excited.
We want to make a motion to recommend this.
Yeah, just a vote of support. We'd like.
If I can, I'll make a motion to support, or that this commission offers support for this particular endeavor.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item of old business is the Parks and Open Space Trails and Recreation Plan.
All right, I'll be brief with this because the plan, the date they turn it in by is tomorrow. So we'll get them all tomorrow, and we will open them. I think we're going to end up opening them on next Monday. The original plan that we put out, we had to redo it because we had $50,000 budgeted, and they came in at well over $100,000. The lowest one was. So we kind of scaled it back a little bit and redid some things. So, and we put in there the maximum that we would spend. We budgeted now $70,000. So we feel like we can get a pretty good plan with that and get them here to start working with them. And we will be having open meetings, public meetings that we would like for you guys to attend. Obviously, be part of those. So. Like I said, we'll be getting opening those bids, which we're anxious to get and see how they turn out. So we'll have a lot more information, obviously, at the next meeting. So, but I just wanted to for sure update you on where we're at with that.
Okay. With that, we'll move into new business 5C, splash pad rules and discussion. I brought this up in the previous meeting, just based off of again another Facebook discussion about some vandalism and things that were happening at the splash pad.
Right.
And kind of just curious to have Mike explain, if there are rules and what we can do to keep it a.
There are rules there, but it's an unsupervised area, like our playgrounds. They're unsupervised. We don't have a person staying there all day supervising it. So there are rules there that we have posted. And we've also made it now where when the splash pad is closed, we lock it up because we were having vandalism to the fixtures and things like that, and it becomes a mini skate park out on the splash pad area. So, but we have rules that they're not allowed out there at that time, and there are rules about no running, and being cautious, but it's really up for the parents to enforce the rules with their kids, just like our playgrounds are. Like I say, they're unsupervised areas, and but I wanted to mention that. You had asked about that, and so I wanted to be sure to put that on there and mention it.
Yeah, and I think just following up on that, from what I've heard, there was some initial group of kids, and they kind of were just taking advantage of this early in the season. It sounds like parents have kind of stepped up and gotten them self-policed, I guess, is the term. But
I know the few times I took my granddaughter there, she had a wonderful time. And I did see a lot of parents enforcing the rules, not only with their kids, but with other kids, which as a parent and grandparent, I fully support, because if I see a child running, it's a danger. Not only is it for the city, but it's also for the person. And so it was a very positive experience for me and my grandkids.
Great.
okay, that's all. Any other discussion? Okay, with that, we'll move into announcements by commission members. This is limited to announcements, availability, or attendance at conferences, seminars, requests for agenda items for future meetings, requests for reports from staff, and no discussion on these items. Item A is my announcement, I suppose, regarding the workshop that we were all invited to back in, geez, was this June? I think it was June.
Yeah, it was in June.
I got just some slides here. But essentially, we got together, and Councilwoman Keener here was, we all worked together to kind of, just us three, but on behalf of the commission, try to put together some goals and some discussion on how the commission can work with the city and push forward support parks. So I hope you guys are okay with these items. It was kind of, like I said, we're just kind of throwing this together. So we handed out the commission goals to everybody, and just trying to look at what Mike had on the agenda for this coming year and ways that we can help out. Short-term goals were to work through the master plan. It's going to be a large, getting the community involved and having some buy-in and making sure all voices are heard through these public meetings. We wanted to make sure and be present as the commission, and I'm not sure if we would want a certain number of people to be attending these meetings, or if they're going to be, they're actually public meetings, yeah. So we can all be there. But just kind of some of the items that we've talked about are budget constraints and attending the meetings, locations for new parks, and what kind of program goes into those parks. Just kind of working through those items, and I don't know if it's going into your communities and listening to what everybody has for input, and you can bring those to the workshops to make sure the plan reflects everybody's input. But those are just some of the items we've discussed. Another item is public safety, public and staff safety of parks and trail facilities. And revenue generation or opportunities for parks. And this is, some of the other commissions, they're working for their counterparts at the city to have fundraisers to produce basically revenue or funds for donations to help push projects. I think Clean City they're helping out with outreach and recycling programs and all kinds of things. So if there's anywhere in there that maybe members of the commission are interested in kind of leading efforts or working with Mike to get some of these things done. Those were just some of the things we talked about. The Kingman Lake did come up as a discussion item. The regional trails came up, and I'm hoping that we can have the commissioner members choose a topic to contribute or work on, and then have some status reports at each meeting just to talk about what sort of progress we've made on individual items. So I don't know if we want to put that on the agenda for the next meeting to kind of solidify these groups, these working groups, and see who wants to go where, or if there's maybe another topic that comes up as a goal that you'd like to propose, just trying to help push help parks in the next year. So, sure.
As far as you knowing what the groups are, or being invited to participate in different meetings and stuff, throughout the city, do you kind of give us some guidance on that, or do we get some guidance on that? Like, be nice to have you here, or or you get an invitation. If you get an invitation, assume that the invitation is a hint that you ought to go.
Right.
Is that how that works?
Yeah, and I can send emails out, and when I send emails out, you can't reply all. You guys can reply back to me, but you can't reply all to the email.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it violates open meeting law. So I will be sending out things like that for when the meetings are for the CIP project that we're doing and things like that, and I'll send out emails to you guys about those type of meetings.
Okay.
Yeah, and so, I mean, looking at this list of items, I think the master plan is pretty self-explanatory. We just attend the meetings and, like I said, gather input if we can. And, you know, the Clean Cities Commission going to the fair and having a booth set up is, you know, I think that's a good example of just public outreach, just being there to, so, yeah, I just felt like we could be a little bit more productive and play a bigger role than just meeting quarterly, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. So that will add it to the agenda then for the next meeting to maybe formalize some smaller teams or at least kind of get people organized.
Sounds good.
Well, it is the announcement section. I did go to the APRA conference that Yvonne mentioned. And one of the things I wanted to mention is just the ADA. Mike and I both attended a session on ADA and bringing those improvements and then having the state help pay for those improvements with grant. They have a few different grant projects. So we reached out to the state ADA coordinator, and he sounds like he's willing to come out and meet with us for a day. So that's something that I'm going to attend with Mike. And
We're excited about that.
Yeah, it's really exciting. And then I guess while I'm talking still, and then I'll stop talking, is I'd like to add the Sun Corridor Trail to the agenda for an update next meeting. That's all I have. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. So with that, then we're ready to adjourn. Do you have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Adjourned.
Thank you.